All right, good morning. Steve Coffey here. I'm doing another podcast this time. Again, something a little bit different. I'm here with Reece, who is a basketball coach as well as an agent. He's going to share a bunch of information on that side of things. Obviously, being a basketball player, you deal with agents and coaches, all kinds of things. So to hear from that other side is going to be very interesting this morning. So thank you, Reece, for being here.
No, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Can you just share a little bit about yourself, just your background and everything going forward?
So I'm here based in Melbourne, Victoria, in Australia, on the regional side, so in a country town called Morwell. So pretty much I've just been living here. I was born and raised in Darwin, which is the top end of Australia. There, I was born and bred there for going on 16 years, and then made the move down south to for school and for basketball. And now I'm here, working full time, coaching whenever we could in the pandemic, and as well as starting up my basketball agency here in Melbourne.
All right. Yeah, so let's talk about that. That's the big one that most players want to hear about. What got you into the agency field? How did you start it? What gave you the interest in being a basketball agent? So can you just share a little bit about that side of things?
So pretty much when I was in Darwin, we had a Premier League up there, which is I was heavily involved with clubs on the recruiting process on how to identify certain athletes, what needs, pretty much just going through a scout as pretty much as a scout. And really was the middleman trying to connect coaches with players, and just doing it as a pure love and passion and to get the benefit for the team. Because obviously you want the best of the best. That pretty much drove me into a bit of a 3-year cycle doing the back end side of things. So I was in constant talk with multiple agencies, managements, and just helping them trying to find, coaches here in Australia, or, connect coaches with agents. I was just really, really into that. I've got a pure passion for my basketball. I love to help, as much as I can. It's actually quite exciting and challenging at the same time. You get to learn, connect with so many different people, so many different experiences, knowledge, and you kind of just you build that in a perspective to build your craft. For myself, I'm a basketball coach, so talking with other guys that in the higher end of the leagues here in the NBL or the NBL one, to get their outset of what they're actually looking for, it kind of turns an eye for me, and it absolutely helps me in terms of the recruiting process as well. So established May this year, right time in the pandemic. Pretty much just been connecting with coaches. Had a little bit of success already. I've got a guy over in Portugal, who's currently playing in the Pro Liga, and I've got 2 guys currently in Armenia, playing in a tour tournament style at the moment for 2 weeks, to hopefully get picked up for their VBET A League at the moment.
Okay. During this pandemic, obviously, basketball's been shut down a lot in most places. Has it affected you mostly, in terms of relationship building, or things just kind of being put on hold because relationships were built beforehand? What's been the worst and the hardest part about COVID during this startup year for yourself?
I think the hardest part about it is that so many teams, leagues, clubs have folded. So it's pretty much you're going back to square one, finding a lot of information in a marketing perspective. I don't think it's really affected in terms of connecting and having relationships at all. It's just kind of been like, hey, I'm interested, but I just don't have anything right now. We don't know where our budget is, or what the team's going to do, or what the league's going to do, because everywhere is so different in terms of the pandemic right now. Some places are really bad, some of them are really good. As they say, pretty much anyone that's able to play right now is pretty lucky, because there's so many guys out there, high level, mid level, rookies, just looking to edge in for a spot, and there's just so many big from. So teams are just kind of just waiting. see what comes at their door. Like, they're happy to wait 4 weeks after the season to get the right guy.
Yeah, that's true. Definitely remember those days, playing in Europe, across the world. The waiting game is not easy for players. Unfortunately, it's out of even the agent's hand. Many players, are always asking, I'm sure they're asking you the same thing, what's the news, what's happening? And a lot of times you gotta say, we don't know at this point. You gotta wait, you gotta be patient, which is frustrating as a player because you're itching to get in there. You work mostly with, Americans, Australians. Is there a certain part of the world you're more involved in, like Europe or Asia or even Australia? What's your plan with all of that?
Yeah, so obviously being here in Australia, I'm trying to entice some Australian athletes to come on board and help me market them potentially overseas, and try and get them placed there. But my main clientele probably comes from the US. To be quite, as anyone to see at Hamriding Sports Management, most of my guys are American, or some of them have a dual passport in South America or Europe. So pretty much, my main still comes from the colleges, pretty much guys coming out of college, really working with them, trying to see where they got, NAIA, all Americans to, NCAA. So just working with them. But look, in terms of pretty much where my biggest connection base potentially I'm hoping to build is Europe. So I'm trying to build that as much as I can right now. I didn't have much connections at all. I knew a few coaches. That was about it. But just every day, just searching up coaches, interacting, introducing myself, and then building my base even more heavier here in Australia.
Okay. All right. The question that every player wants to know. I asked this question, more than 10 years ago when I graduated, before I started playing professionally. What do you look for in a player? Obviously, besides the accolades, Division I, All-American, etc., those are, the cream of the crop. There's still thousands of other players who, have that desire, who didn't, have the higher, honors of all conference and things like that, but still want to make it happen. As an agent, what are things you look for in a player that you would tell someone, look, I'm looking for this, and that players would know moving forward, okay, this is something that I can, provide to this agency or to other agents that might make it work?
Yeah, I think it's about how you introduce yourself, right? That's the main thing I always pick on when I look at someone's profile or someone's emailed me, because some of them just come in like, yeah, this is my profile, here you go. Like, some of them actually really good. They're very detailed. Hey, my name's this, I'm this is where I'm based. This is where I was in the past year. I'd love to have the opportunity to just sit down and have a chat and see what we could potentially do. But it's mainly just about the character. I think that's something that's come really in light right now, is a lot of teams are looking at high character guys, because if you're, and that's, if you want to be someone who's very upfront, very timid, just wanting to get it done in a rush, teams and myself, I ain't going to look at you. It's like, hold on. I like to do my research first. I like to have a look. I like to get background references as well. Because, ideally, if I'm going to work with someone, I want to know what they're like, and I want an honest opinion. So ideally, if someone's going to contact me, I've had over 500 emails from athletes, wanting to join the agency or expressed interest, and look, probably 30 of them I picked out of the 500 are actually worthy of contacting, purely because they just did not care about the attention to detail or effort. So if you're going to contact agents like myself or any groups at all, try and be different to what they get every day, because every day we get emails saying, hey, this is my stats, this is my film, here you go. Like, we want something different. We want you to introduce yourself. We want you to be open. We want to see your character. You want to see your personality. Are you bubbly? Are you open, outgoing? Are you a joker? We want to see that, because then it makes it easier for us to sell you to teams, because teams are always after a good character guy.
Yeah, that's something. I'm not an agent by any means, but I've been blessed to be playing this game, for the last 10 years in 8 different countries. So kind of like you, I get a lot of emails and messages on, Facebook, Instagram from wannabe players. And that's one of the biggest things to me that's been, a turnoff is just seeing how people present themselves. I've had guys who say, hey, I'm a guard, here's my film, hook me up with something. I had one guy send me his video, and it blew my mind. It was just full of explicitives and cursing and things. I'm just like, the thing is that most people don't understand is basketball is a job the same way if you're a lawyer, a doctor, a teacher. You have to present yourself and your resume in a way that's professional. So coming across rude, arrogant, music that's just full of, things that nobody wants to hear is just the biggest turnoff. And I'm sure you can elaborate on that these are things that, you got to get out of your system if you want any type of chance.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the first time we actually met was through a connection, and you introduced yourself quite well. You explained what you're doing. Hey, I'm Steve. I'm a guard. I'm just looking for an opportunity right now. Obviously, I see that you're here. You did your research. You knew where I was. That's one thing most players don't do. They don't search where you're actually based, because then it goes, oh, it triggers me because I'm just like, okay, well, you've been stalking my profile. I like that because you're going into detail. But yes, in terms of people like sending films and there's a lot of cursing or explicit stuff, teams get very offended by it, even though you might be the nicest person on earth, but you've just picked a wrong choice, and that can make or break your career. It's pretty, pretty straight. If you don't, it's straight up and down. It doesn't go sideways or anything. They look at you up, look at you down, making a decision. That's how they see it, and your first impression always counts as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was told by a coach who I talked to because I was helping him out fill a position as well because he knew I had some connections and stuff. Is even in the video, the first 15 seconds, 20 seconds decides already they know whether they're interested or not. And if you put a video up and the first 10 seconds are just a picture of you with, some music and there's nothing going on, they're bored by now.
Yep.
They hear, expletives, they're done with that too. If you introduce yourself as, yo, or just, it's not very professional, same thing. It's not going to work. Make those first 20 seconds the most valuable 20 seconds you can, and then go from there. And as you said, I'd reached out to you because, I played in Europe, I played in North Africa, I played in the Middle East, I played in Asia. Australia was kind of my last spot. I was like, I got to get there somehow. What better way to do it than to find someone in Australia who knows the country, who works within the country. I'm sure if I hit you up and said, hey, I'm interested in playing, in Mongolia, you've been like, well, I can try and help you, but based in Australia, it's going to be a little bit harder. Do your research, as you said, is probably the biggest thing to do. The same way teams are going to do their research on you, you got to do your research on agents and find out who you want to work with. The agent, might think you're a good fit, but are you a good fit for that agent as well? There's just so many things that go into it. As an agent right now, do you have like a set number of players you're willing to work with? Is there a quota on the limit? Is it every time you sign a player to a team, you're wanting to take on more players, or you want to keep it small? What is your goal with your agency personally?
Yeah, so pretty much the outline I've got at the moment for the first 12 to 24 months is I'm going to work with a selected group of guys, so about up to 25 athletes. So I'm keeping it nice and close because at the end of the day, it's only just me at the end of the day, so I don't want to overload myself. So I've been quite really picky with who I'm working with, and I've got 20 guys right now that I'm pretty blessed to have. And they've been nothing but great, patient, and understanding. They're teaching me things, I'm teaching them things, keeping the open communication with them. Because that's my main thing. I think the biggest letdown at the moment, and, probably yourself knows, is with some agents, they don't communicate as much, so, I'm trying to keep the communication channel open as much as possible. I live a life outside of the agency as well. So I'm trying to keep that work-life balance in place. But yeah, ideally, obviously, once the market gets better and everything starts to look up, if I'm having, I say, a quarter to 30% of my guys signed, then I might bring in another one or two to keep this rotation going, and then keep it going through that. It might be just, hey, I'll find openings and I just grab resumes, and I might just do a placement type situation. Because I've got plenty of resumes on file that I did like, but unfortunately I just didn't think was the right fit. So, that would be that. And then I would advertise that as you're seeing, and just pretty much keep it open as much as I can, rather than having to shut down, give a few days to miss because I'm overwhelmed or I'm run down. I'm just making sure I'm sharing the workload to be fair.
Okay. Is the potential for expanding and bringing other people on to help part of the future? And do you work with other agents overseas? I know a lot of agents interact with each other because an agent in, we'll say China, needs help finding a guy in Asia or in the US. So he works with a different agent, or do you work just solely with the team by yourself?
So pretty much it depends on what the team's after. If there's no, obviously I'm going to offer my guys to be first, and then if none of them are liked, then that's when I reach out to agents. I want to keep that relationship. I want to keep that connection. I want to try and help the team. So I'm not purely just there. Okay, none of my guys are. I'm just going to move away. Thank you. Bye. I'm going to be like, hey, I want to still help you find your guy. So let me connect you with a few agents I know. Like, I have no problems with collaborating with agents. I think the biggest thing with my agency is, commission's overrated. I don't like that to interfere with anything. I'm purely just here to get people placed, and help them elevate their careers. That's my motive. The money's not the drive. It's about the passion and actually helping people, because at the end of the day, it's gonna work itself out later. So pretty much what I do is, if I've got an opening, and I can't fill it, I reach out to other agents. Hey, I've got this opening. Any of you guys interested? Send me your list. Or, sometimes if I know it's a really good opening, a high level opening, I go around to all these agents and I go, hey, send me your list. This is what I've got. And I'll send it on to the coach. I've got no problems in doing that. At the end of the day, as much as it needs to serve my agency's needs, it also needs to serve their needs, because I'm trying to keep a future connection. So I'm all about the connections. I take great pride in it.
I think the common word through everything you're talking about is relationship with clubs, relationship with your players, relationship with other agents. That's something that works in every way. If you could be the best player in the world, but you can't maintain a relationship with your agent or the club you played on, your career is probably going to be very short and, very disappointing because of the potential it was had. So this is important for people out there to understand is, the relationship, the way you communicate with people speaks volumes. I know at RMIT, it's more important to have, good communication and a good relationship with a player than him to be, Michael Jordan and, just be a jerk who's going to bring everything down. So
That's right. It's about maintaining those bridges, right? You don't want to burn any bridges, because you never know what that bridge could lead you to. So, that's why I say to guys whenever they go to a new country or a new team, hey, network, build relationships. You never know what can happen. You got to keep an open mind with it. Don't be a jerk. Be different. Be good. You want to leave the impression where they're like, okay, I want you back next season. I want to chase you next season. Or hey, I know a coach that's looking for someone. I think you would be really great for them. I'm going to recommend you. You just never know what it could lead to. So it's so important to keep relationships.
it is. I mean, even networking with other players, I know it's probably 4 or 5 years ago by now. I developed a relationship with a guy who I played against. Him and I became very good friends. He was in my wedding. And, he signed to a team and they were looking for a guard. And he pushed for me, just knowing, what I was as a player, but also as a person. He knew that I'd bring a good, character to the team as well as just basketball ability. And his influence led to me signing with the team. I wouldn't have signed there if he wasn't there. I was interested in other options, but because of the relationship I had with him, I was like, let's make this work and do something special. You just never know what can happen. The fact is, you can get jobs through relationships with people, with players, with other coaches, with other teams, with other agents. Never think that you're better or good enough as it is, because you just don't know what's out there. which
That's right.
brings to the next point is with all the new rules coming in, with Bosman's taking over Europe, Americans are getting less and less opportunities now. How do you communicate that to Americans who just want this to happen? Because, I know in France when I started playing, you were allowed 2-3 Americans per team. Now, unless you're in Pro A, the top level, you only get one American from Pro B down, which, is a huge blow to the industry for Americans who are playing, because as opposed to having 60 spots available in the country, you've got 20 spots now. And, that's hard for us to swallow because, as Americans, we love basketball. We want to be able to play. So what are some of the things now that you're suggesting to players, whether it's finding a dual citizenship, finding new leagues that are starting up that are offering more spots? What do you tell your guys through all this?
Yeah, so yeah, definitely with the Bosman coming pretty much taking over whole of Europe now, especially, pretty much what I suggest to guys is let's find ways to be different. Let's find a way to catch their eye, right? So whether that's, okay, we need to look at your player profile. Do we need to jig something? Do we need to look at your film again? Do we need another game film? What we're going to have to find interaction. That's where we go and do our research. We do our marketing. We find out things. We do things different. And try and catch their attention, because sometimes you go, okay, there's a Boston A, probably same level as the American, and they're going to go, well, I really like the look of the American from what I saw. We want that type of difference. We don't go, well, he's a Boston A, he's easy to get. He's easier to get. So, ideally what I get, try and make my guys understand is a lot of them are pretty understanding, so it's not too much drama on that end, but it's like, okay, you got to realize when they talk about a Bosman, that's like visa reasons as well as like eligibility in the country is so much easier to go with a Bosman. Rather than getting Americans fresh in there, you got to go through this, you got to go through background checks. You know how it goes when you go into a country like that. And pretty much what I get the guys to do is let's find something different. Do we have to start uploading, promoting your uploading workout videos to see what current shape you're in? Just finding ways to really intrigue the interest and catch it, rather than, okay, I'm holding onto it, but I'm not grabbing it, so, just really finding ways to interact as well, and just, keeping in contact, hey, how you doing? How's the team looking? Type of things like that. And as I say to guys, as much as I'm there to market and try and find you somewhere, coaches love players chasing them. There's nothing better than that. Obviously, you got to know your limits, and you don't, be over persistent. So ideally, pretty much right now with that situation is, do I see a divide? Not really. It's just a matter of how you conduct yourself towards the team.
Okay. What are some of I just want some stories out of you. What are some of the hardest conversations you've had to have with players? An example I had to have with a guy literally about a month ago. He played in 5th division of one country, and a team that I knew who moved up to the 2nd division was looking for a guard. So I put it on my Facebook and tagged a couple of guys I knew in it, just because I wanted to see if they were free or not. I didn't know what was going on based on the situation with COVID, if they were signed or not.
Mm-hmm.
And he hit me up and said, hey, why didn't you, put me onto this job? Well, the fact is, you play 5th division, one country. It's kind of hard to get noticed into a 2nd division. It's not anything against you personally. It's nothing against who you are as a human being or basketball player, but resume speaks volumes. A team's not going to look at you if you played in a lower division to bring you up to that high division where the money's higher, the competition's higher, things like that. What are some stories you've had to have with guys just to help them understand the reality of the situation when it's not easy?
Pretty much COVID. Let's just put it at that. A lot of guys, especially more of my experienced guys I've got, that have been doing it for 10 plus years. Just having a bit of trouble understanding what the market's like right now. So I have to be quite firm and just really honest and say, hey, here's all the emails I've sent. These are all the conversations I had. I'm, like I said, I'm trying, but right now the market is just dead. There's not much going. There's so many nitpicking going on. you know. And so it's not like it's against you of who you are as a person, but when a team in Pro A looks at someone who's only been playing in LEB Silver, yeah, you had great stats, but they're just going to look at you and go, well, I don't think you can jump 3 divisions. You know, and that's just unfortunately just a reality. And that's what I said. He said you can't get caught up in what you want the most. And so you got to keep an open mind with things. And, you know, you got to battle egos and everything like that, which thankfully enough, I don't have too many. So it's been quite good to be able to reason them out and talk it out and try and find ways. But the hardest conversation I've really had was to actually get rid of someone, you know, just due to behavioral issues, you know. And I would warn once, I would warn again, and it's like, hey, 3 strikes, you're out. You know, I'll give you the best chances I can, but if you're not willing to help yourself, I don't want to help you. You know, and so it doesn't mean it cuts anything out for the future, but just right now, I think you just need to improve in a few areas. You know, they're probably the only, luckily enough, that's the only hard conversation I've had so far. You know, because I really like the kid, but at the end of the day, I think he just needs some time to self-reflect and work on himself a little bit. So, you know, and that's the only real hard one I've had so far. So fingers crossed that's the only ones I really have. But, you know, time's going to change.
Honestly, I think that's the mark of a big agent who's willing to have those conversations the same way. You know, you don't want a coach who's going to coddle you and let you make the same mistake over and over again. You want an agent who's going to be honest and upfront with you. And sometimes that means, hey, I got to cut you loose right now because this is affecting me. It's not what's right at the moment. So definitely impressed with that. Not everybody wants to do that. It means sometimes, you know, having those hard conversations. Last question would just be, what is some advice you have for future potential players who want to be able to get into this, you know, business of playing basketball overseas?
Keep working, work every day, work out every day, you know, as much as you can. Be active. Don't just be sitting on the couch hoping for it to happen. You know, the harder you work for it, the more likely it'll become. You know, it's just unfortunately a time and place with things. You know, network, connect with people who've played overseas, get some insight, you know, do your research, you know, build your resume. You know, if that means you can't go overseas after the first year out of college, go and play in the local leagues, in the ABA, the TBL, the NBL US that's been established. Gain exposure, get stats, get film, keep it up to date. You know, just keep striving to be better. You know, because there's nothing more than I like as a motivated person. You know, because I know that they're willing to do what it takes. You know, so, and keep your attitude right. You know, keep patient, be humble, because if not, you're just gonna, like you say, you can find yourself in a pretty short career.
Yeah, I think the last thing you want to do is get that phone call and be out of shape and not ready to go. I know an example for me was I got back from playing in Morocco and had a 6-week break because I didn't know what was going on. Morocco was a tough situation with a club that was not very honest and just a lot of internal issues, which led to me and the other import, you know, deciding to go home. And 6 weeks later, I got a phone call from a team in Jordan that, you know, offered me a contract, and it would have been horrible to have done nothing for 6 weeks but sulk and be upset or whatever, as opposed to working. You just never know when that phone call could come and where it could come from. You get that one chance, you got to be ready to break through that door and do the best you can. So definitely enjoy that advice. All right, Reece, thank you so much for your time. Love this conversation, something that I think a lot of people need to be able to hear. It's going to be posted to a lot of different people so they just see the reality of what it really is. Playing basketball is not just something that's easy, that you can do whatever. There's definitely a fine-tuning that needs to happen. There's a level of professionalism that has to happen, open lines of communication, and much more. So really appreciate your time this morning.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, hopefully this insight helps a lot of guys aspiring, even guys like yourself that are pretty experienced. It's always a nice little refresher.
I appreciate it. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. See you, mate.
Bye.